Morgan, would you like to call roll?
I would. Kip Paragoy.
Here.
Mr. Barry Evans.
Here.
Willie Newkirk Sr.
Here.
Jimmy Dillahunt.
Here.
Carol Williams.
Here.
Sonny Aluzo.
Here.
Raymond Layton.
Here.
Harry Betty.
Here.
Byron Walston. Not yet. And Dorothea White. We
Here.
have a quorum.
Okay, excellent. Our first order of business is approval of minutes from our August 2nd meeting. I think Morgan has indicated that she's made a couple of minor corrections, and the meeting minutes that you have in front of you reflect those changes. I think it was about attendance and excused versus absent, that sort of thing. So
Yes.
pretty minor. So if everybody's had a chance to review those and there are no more changes, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
I make a motion to reapprove the minutes.
All right, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Okay.
Okay, our next, moving on to new business, our next item is consideration of a rezoning request submitted by Tried by Fire Incorporated to rezone the property totaling about 1/4 acre from R10 residential district to C5 office and institutional district. The property is located at 823 Clark Avenue. The property is further identified by Craven County as tax parcel 8-022-028. Morgan, would you like to give us an overview from staff?
Yes, sir. I do have a brief PowerPoint presentation that I will show the board just shortly. As you're aware, this is an R10 residential district. She's requesting to go to C5 office and institutional. The applicants are present this evening. I'm sure they would like to address you all once I'm done with my little brief presentation. If I have any questions to the board, just feel free to interrupt me, okay? Okay, everyone, can you hear me okay? The applicant, Tried by Fire Incorporated, Mr. Eric B. Simmons Sr. is the property owner. He is present tonight. The requested change, as you've been told, is the existing R10 residential. They're requesting to go to C5 office and institutional. It's approximately 1/4 acre, single-family residential presently. As you, from the north, south, and east, it's bounded by single-family residential R10 zoning. To the west of the property, you'll find Pruitt Health and Hospice. It is C5 office institutional as well. It's the hospital area I'm sure you're familiar with. They're requesting the rezoning, but is currently surrounded by single-family residential, with the exception of the parcel to the west. Their desire is to open a halfway house for female ex-offenders. The rezoning, from staff perspective, is not compatible with city plans just because it could potentially affect adjacent properties due to increased traffic and increased development within the 100-year floodplain. The property is currently in the 100-year flood zone. When the new flood maps come out in April, approximately, it will remain in that flood zone. So you are increasing human habitation in that parcel. Additionally, DOT has done traffic counts. If you're familiar where Newton Boulevard branches off and Clark Avenue intersects, the closest traffic counts is approximately 12,000 cars a day, give or take, on that parcel. That is a local road, Clark Avenue. So staff's opinion is if you're going to increase the traffic, you're going to increase the traffic flow on the local road. All city services are currently provided. As I spoke earlier, it is consistent as a developed designation. However, because of the thoroughfare plan and traffic, staff doesn't feel that this would be an appropriate use because it is a single-family residential neighborhood. In just one moment, you'll see the zoning map. As I mentioned previously, it is within the 100-year flood zone, and when the maps change this coming spring, summer, it will remain. It's not on the fringe, it's pretty well within it. This is the site data. As you can see, it's a single-family neighborhood. To the west of the property, you'll see the hospital area, which is currently zoned C5. This is the structure, as seen from the street. Mr. Simmons lives in the White House, which is to the left, and his wife, excuse me, Ms. Benita Simmons. This is the zoning map. You can see R10 that is surrounded by. There is some commercial along the corridor, the highway corridor. There is C5 to the west of the parcel, but the majority of the area is R10.
Morgan, sorry if I could interrupt, there is no, at least not that I can tell looking at aerials and looking at the map, there's no connection between, physical road connection between Clark Avenue and Kennedy Avenue and over that side. You'd have to go back out to.
Yes, sir, that is correct, yes, sir.
Yeah.
That is the only way in and that is the only way out. If you look to the north, there's some apartments up there. Those are also cul-de-sacs as well. You're correct, that there's only one way in and one way out. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
As I was saying, again, increased traffic, increased development within the 100-year floodplain is of concern. May cause negative impacts to the surrounding area due to this traffic increase. There are other permissible uses by right if you do choose to rezone it. You can't just rezone and say it's going to be a halfway house. There are other options that could be available there. You could do a funeral home. You could have a veterinarian office, office of a physician or a dentist, nursing care homes, child care homes. So there is a lot bigger of a broad spectrum of uses for this property if it is rezoned. Stated earlier, staff does recommend disapproval of this rezoning request due to these reasons. And I have nothing further. If you have any questions for me, Mr. and Mrs. Simmons are present. I'm sure they'd like to address the board as well.
I have a couple questions about that.
Yes, sir.
You're saying Clark Avenue is a one-way in and one-way out?
Yes, sir. According to that map right there, you would have to go into Clark Avenue, circle back around to what looks like Chattawa Lane.
Chicago and also,
Along the way.
yeah, I think there's about several ways out of there.
It's a horseshoe. You can go all the way around.
Yeah, I drove up in there and I looked at that. So there's several ways to exit and enter that section.
And there is no access to Kennedy Avenue.
Right.
Right.
Okay, that's the question I want to make sure that we need.
How many people will be there?
Sorry,
How
sir.
many people will be there?
I will let the applicant address that. I'm sure she has an answer for you. She hasn't readily yet told us, but she'll be able to tell you.
Yeah. So,
Are there any, I'm sorry,
no, it's fine, go ahead.
are there any R5 lots in that area in close proximity to this, like
R5?
childcare, anywhere?
I'm going to call on Mr. Greg McCoy to answer that question. He is the zoning administrator. He would have a far better answer than I would. Hold 1 second, please.
I believe you mean C5.
C5, I'm sorry, yes, C5. Yes, C5, I'm sorry.
That's all right. As Morgan stated, you have the hospital, and down Kennedy Avenue, that area is zone C5.
Well, I was talking more so the residential.
No,
Okay, there's no child cares or anything over in that area now?
not that I'm aware of. And further back, you have another zoning, residential zoning district, which is R6.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Mr. McCoy.
You're welcome.
So the doctor's office isn't considered Clark Avenue, that's considered News Boulevard?
With a hospital, that's News
No,
Boulevard, but if you go down Kennedy,
No,
I think
right
it's the
on the Clark on the-
pediatrician's office.
Clark and News Boulevard, speaking of, that doctor's office there.
Yeah.
That's Chicago Lane.
that is zone commercial, and that sits on one of our major corridors.
Right.
And that's C3, not.
That's correct. That's the pink portion there.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. I have nothing further. I'm sure the
Okay,
applicant.
so, if we have any board discussion? we-
I do have one more question. Have the city received any feedback from the neighbors? And I know you posted the small sign at the north of the foot out. Do you have a larger sign that we're putting out now?
We put that sign out approximately a week prior to the Planning and Zoning Board. Mr. McCoy has had 2 concerns addressed to him. I have not, but he has had 2 concerns addressed to him who are neighbors in the area. And soon, if it does choose to go before the Board of Aldermen and the applicant chooses to carry it further, there will be a public notice in the newspaper and the sign will stay. So there will be additional public advertising.
Thank you.
Okay?
Mr. McCoy, would you like to summarize those concerns for us that you've received?
Yes, 2 property owners, adjacent property owners showed up. One gentleman, and I apologize, I didn't get their names. One gentleman had some concerns about just the overall use of the property. Another gentleman came by the office, and I was in a meeting, and I had to jump out, but he came by the office, and he had some concerns about what is allowed in the C5 zoning district.
Okay. Thank you. Any other board discussion before we open up the public comment period?
Yes. How many people are they planning on having there?
They said they're gonna direct that to the
Well, we'll
They're gonna
direct that
address that.
question to the applicant.
I had two residents that had some concern about it.
Okay.
One lived on Clark Avenue and the other one lived on Colonial Way. That's right around the corner that connects to Clark Avenue. And their concern was, they thought it was a good thing, but not in their neighborhood.
Sure. Thank you, Ms. Williams. Okay, any other board discussion before we open up the public comment? Okay, at this time, we'd like to open up public comment, and we'll start with those speaking in favor of the application. I presume that'll be our applicant this evening. Please come forward and speak your name and address.
My name is Benita Simmons, and I am a resident of 821 Clark Avenue. I am not a politician. I am just a citizen who cares about all people. And basically, I can sum it up like this. If I can help somebody as I travel alone, if I can help somebody with a word or a song, if I can help somebody who may be going wrong, then my living shall not be in vain. That's why I'm here. I just want to help someone. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the board and community. Again, as I stated, my name is Benita B. Simmons, and I serve as the Chief Vision Executive for my sister's house. The reason I am here this evening is to request rezoning for the property located at 823 Clark Avenue, presently zoned as R10. I am also here this evening to give reasons why the property mentioned should be rezoned to C5. Article 9 of the Zoning Districts and Maps, Section 15-138, Office and Institutional Districts establish. The following office and institutional districts are hereby created to accomplish the purposes and serve the objectives indicated. 1. The C5 office and institutional district is established as the district in which the principal use of the land is for residences, certain limited business and professional offices, and some institutional type uses, such as hospitals, medical offices, and clinics. In establishing this zoning classification, the specific intent of the district is A, to encourage use of land for institutional and office purposes, to prohibit commercial and industrial uses of land which would generate large volumes of traffic or would interfere with the use of land for residential office and institutional purposes, to encourage the discontinuance of existing uses that would not be permitted as new uses in this district. D, to encourage the development of areas which will serve as a transition zone between the more intensive businesses districts and less intensive residential districts provided for in this ordinance. After being a volunteer of the Craven-Pamlico Reentry Council, it has become clear that we have numerous programs for mental, substance, and alcohol abuse. We even have transitional homes for men who have been previously incarcerated. But at present, in New Bern, there aren't any halfway houses for women who are coming out of prison. According to definition number 47 of the City of New Bern Ordinance, halfway house, a home for not more than 9 persons who have demonstrated a tendency toward alcoholism, drug abuse, mental illness, or antisocial or criminal conduct, together with not more than 2 persons providing supervision and other services to such persons, all of whom live together as a single housekeeping unit. In July of 2013, the Sun Journal reported that in Craven County alone, there were approximately 12,371 homeless people. With the opening of My Sister's House, besides providing a nurturing and warm environment conducive for transitioning into society, My Sister's House will have an impact on the decrease of homelessness as it pertains to the women coming out of prison, and with your help, the decrease in the recidivism rate. Finally, it is our goal to provide and implement programs that will help all of our residents reinvent themselves honorably. Worth is a weekly group session that community leaders, educators, and former offenders will come and facilitate women offenders reinventing themselves honorably, and why they should. This will be an ongoing program to assist our residents with their self-esteem, communication skills, dealing with rejection, and doing things right the first time. My Sister's House has partnered with Craven Community College, the community, and is a faith-based home that will ensure that the women who are coming out of prison will have the training and the skills to have a positive and productive life as they re-enter society, with promoting healthy families, mental, substance, and alcohol recovery programs, and job readiness for the women to gain and regain the necessary skills to be competitive in the workforce. In closing, as a community, if given the opportunity, My Sister's House will be a legacy, not only for Tried by Fire Incorporated, but for New Bern and the Craven County community. Now, there will be at the most 6 persons living in My Sister's House. We will have 30, 60, 90, and 120-day intervals. Again, I can understand some of my neighbors' concerns, and I have spoken. Please know, I have knocked on the doors. I have spoken to my neighbors, those that were home and those who are homeowners, because let's be honest, those who are renting, we don't even know how long they're going to be there. But those who have stock in the neighborhood, I have spoken directly to them. They have told me, you know, hey, we think that you're doing a real good job. I even went on to get their initials and their signature to state that they are supporting of this. But they had concerns. We're going to have an open door policy. They can come. Of course, they have to schedule it. We're not just going to have the doors open at 11 o'clock just because they want to see what's going on. But we're going to have days where anyone can come just to see how the home is being ran. Again, I just believe in giving people a second chance, some people third chances if need be. But again, that's my aim. I am just here to help someone, and hopefully with your help, I can do that. Any questions?
You said up to 9?
Up to 6, sir.
Up to 6 people?
Your ordinance says up to 9, but we will do up to 6.
So it's 6 people, and that's the residents?
Yes, sir.
And how many staff?
We'll have 2.
Have 2.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Is that a 3-bedroom, 1-bath house?
Yes, sir, it is.
It's about 1,000 square feet?
Excuse me?
It's about 1,000 square
I
feet?
think it is. Yes, sir.
And that house was actually built in 1920?
I don't actually have my notes as to when it was built, but I think Ms. Morgan has all of that.
I pulled
recorded.
records on it.
Excuse me?
I pulled records on it to
Okay.
to see when it was built and what additional structures were
Okay,
made to the property, and it didn't show that any were made
Okay.
since then, that you purchased the house for $30,000.
yes, sir.
I have one more. Your
Sure.
connection to my sister's house, when
Yes.
you gave your introduction,
Yes, I did. I am the chief executive visionary.
are you?
I'm the one with the vision. I live right next door, sir. 821.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
And I was just looking at the city concerns with the increased traffic flow. So would every resident have a vehicle?
Well, you know, that kind of surprised me when that was a concern, because please, ma'am, please, sir, understand, these women are coming out of prison. They will not have a vehicle. So there will not be, it will probably be zero traffic concerning them. Minimum, very minimum. Like if anyone is on probation, probably their probation officer will be stopping by, but that's going to be randomly. But they will not have vehicles.
So we're looking at what, the 2 staff members?
Yes, probably at most 3 vehicles, because we will have a van for my sister's house to help transport, them to the various locations that they need to help be regained into society.
Do you intend to be on staff in-house?
I will be on staff, but I will be the pop-up person. There will be someone there 24 hours. My schedule will not allow me to be there all the time, but I will be there a lot of the times.
So you won't be considered one of the 2?
Oh, no, no, sir.
Okay, I have a couple of questions.
Yes, sir.
Is it gonna be handicap accessible?
Yes, sir. We are in the process right now looking at what we'll have to do if we have someone who is handicapped. We do have that space to make that adaptation, so that's a consideration.
Have you talked to the inspecting department to see what your do's and don'ts would have to be? Have the house been updated?
To be
As far
honest
as
with
the
you,
alarm, the smoke detectors, the safety of the house. is what
to
I'm
be
trying to
honest
say.
with you, I wanted to get this out of the way first, and then we will do that. I promise you.
So you are prepared to do that?
Yes, sir,
if
we
it's
are.
approved?
Yes, sir. I have a whole list of to-dos, and this is the first thing that I needed to do.
Now you're saying females.
Yes, sir.
Are you expecting it, are they allowed company?
Yes, I have my rules if you would like to take a look
No,
at
no,
them.
no, I'm just wondering when you.
Oh, yes, I
You
have,
brought up the traffic and the company and the parking spaces.
yes,
Which is
sir.
one of my concerns. If you get 6 females, you get 5 males, coding person, 2 staff members, would you have enough parking without imposing on your neighbor?
Well, I can assure you this. First of all, they have to earn the privilege to even have a guest to come and visit. And again, 6 women will not be coating at the same time. I promise you that. Because again, we're going to try and monitor as best as we can. But again, they have to earn privilege. Once they come out, they have a lot of work to do before they start having guests coming over. And as they may be having a guest coming over, they're getting ready to be exit out.
Okay. And the next one, have you talked to the chief, or does the chief know your plans for that house?
The
Chief
chief-
of police, that is.
Yes, sir, I have spoken with him, not officially, but we have spoken unofficially. I, again, will be sitting down and speaking to all those who I need to speak to make sure everything is done decent and in order.
Thank you.
But the first thing was to make sure that I meet with you all. Will there be any other questions?
Yes, ma'am.
Question.
Yes, ma'am.
Will these offenders be federal offenders as well as state offenders? And also, would they be child molesters, murderers? My concern is for the community. There's a lot of little kids that's around there in the neighborhood.
Yes, ma'am.
And truly, I do believe it is a worthy cause But in a residential area where there's family-oriented activities going on, and
Right, I understand your concern, and I understand those who may have spoken to you about that. And this is what I've told everyone, because it is so great a task. Going into this, one of the requirements for the ladies to become a resident of my sister's house, they cannot be a sex offender. Because again, I understand the concerns, it's residential, and I have to also look out for my residents. I am also in that neighborhood, you know, but I live by example. I don't know if they're going to be murderers. I don't know if they're going to be rapists, but I do know this. We will not allow sex offenders, because that has a whole nother set of rules, and we're not going to be able to take on that task so fast. I'm providing those persons who have offended, who wish to not return to their geographical location where they offended, to have a place where they can get it together. And then, after they get it together, they can go back wherever they want to, or stay wherever they want, and live a better life than they did before they offended. So yes, that's going to be the one thing that we will not have. We will not have sex offenders.
Okay.
I want to,
Well, I don't want us to get bogged down on rules that frankly we have no purview over. What I want us to make sure we focus on is the application at hand and how the ordinance applies to that application. Yeah, that's all we can deal with here. The concerns are the concerns, we all understand. We have to take that into account with our individual votes for sure.
yeah.
But I want to make sure that we focus on, you know, the laws that we have in front of us that we have to deal with.
I have something I want to ask you. What professional level of counseling is there going to be there? Who is the professional with a degree? Or something like that. Is that going to be available?
Yes, sir. We're going to have therapists. We have a psychologist that will be coming in for therapy. There's going to be weekly therapy sessions and group sessions for all. And of course, you know, our community is filled with recovery programs. So again, we're not going to reinvent wheels. We're just providing a home for the ladies. That's my main goal, is to provide a home, provide transportation so they can get to some of these recovery programs, and provide counseling in-house so that those things that they have had trouble with in the past, or maybe could not talk to someone about, will have that.
Okay.
How is this funded?
Excuse me?
How is it funded?
Right now, it is not funded. It has,
What's the anticipation? Is it going to be grant money or?
yes, sir. I have spoken with some persons from public safety in Raleigh that have an interest, and a Catholic charity has an interest in funding it. And so I've been in close communication, and we have some millionaires that want to be some private donors.
So you'll have to apply every year, or how would that work?
Excuse me?
You'd have to apply every year for the money, or how would it work?
I will have to apply every year, but then there's some who's going to give a substantial amount that I won't have to apply every year. So with the private donors, what they give, we'll be very grateful for. Those persons that I have to apply every year for the grant, then we have grant preparers and people who are proficient in that area, that they will do that for us.
The reason I ask is I'm concerned that if you can't fund this anymore, or if it folds, we will have then rezoned this, and the people who live there will be stuck with having this commercial property in their midst. So that's why I'm wondering how long, if you're pretty sure it's going to last for.
Well, I'm pretty sure it's going to last for a while, but the good thing about it is I personally know the owner. And so one way or the other, it's going to be something that's going to be able to be of good use, not only to the community, but to our neighborhood. So it's just not going to just sit there and, you know, not do anything.
Yeah, so again, I don't want to sound like a broken record, but, you know, we've got the application in front of us, and I understand exactly what you're asking, and I have the same questions. I'm just not sure, that's not in our purview. It's a reasonable question. I'm not sure it can affect our,
Well,
Yes,
the reason I brought it
decision
up is
here.
that Morgan told us that there's a litany of things that could be done. All right, so I'm not sure that if this is one, they're applying for this, but what we're doing now is we're setting up a possibility of somebody putting a dentist office there, or a doctor's office, or, a truck fixer-upper,
and so in fairness to the applicant, sorry, Morgan, residential uses are also allowed in C5. So a single-family residence is allowed in C5, so
Yeah,
it could
I
very easily
understand
revert back to that.
According to your ordinance.
Yeah, no, I do understand that.
Yeah.
And again, each one of you, because of time and what you also have to make other decisions about, I have brochures. You can call me at any time. I'm very accessible. I'll be happy to meet with anyone, and whatever questions you would like to ask, feel free to do so. I'm not touchy-feely. My husband has groomed me very well not to wear my feelings on my sleeve. I think I can handle you.
Morgan,
Yeah.
Chairman, can I ask one more question?
let's let staff speak. Morgan had something she wanted to add there.
Two questions, one statement regarding the permitted uses. The zoning administrator, Greg McCoy, is here. I'll let him give you the rundown of what the permissible uses are. Second was point of order. When we do have the final vote, could you please raise your hand so I can see, since we do have a full house this evening?
Yeah.
Thank you.
And just a last question, according to the report that was prepared by the city planner, it says it lies within that 100-year floodplain, and I hate to call this Hurricane Alley, but we're impacted quite often by the flood. Have you taken that into consideration of having 6 residents that aren't able to, let's say, go and be evacuated and pay for a stay in a hotel and cover the cost of their food over a 3 to 5 day period? Have you taken that into account?
Well, to be perfectly honest with you, Mr. Walston, I have not. But because my pantry is always pretty well stocked, I would dare not evacuate and not look next door and say, well, every woman for themselves. I will make sure that they had the food, as you just mentioned, 3 to 5 days or whatever. Whatever had to be done. When you have to, all of you have to understand, I'm not opening this house from a selfish standpoint. I never been in jail, never been in prison. I am a law-abiding citizen. So I mean, again, I don't have a real reason. Oh, I just really want to open. I want to open it because it's needed. There's so many people. I was told today there's already 2 women right now in our community who are homeless because they just got out of prison and they don't have anywhere to go. That's our problem. It's not just my problem. It's our problem because we all live here.
Thank you. Greg, do you want to run over those permissible uses for us?
Yes, a halfway house is allowed in 4 zoning districts. Your C1, your C2, your C3, and your C5. We are looking at a rezoning application. The use is not on the table at this time, as you stated several times. We are looking at rezoning this property. So when you rezone the property, all the uses that are allowed in that zoning district are permitted.
One of the dilemmas of planning and board.
That's correct. Now, as I stated earlier, a halfway house is allowed in 4 zoning districts. Currently, a conditional use permit is required. That means once we start looking at the use, if it is allowed to be rezoned, then it would come back before this board, or if it changes, it would go back before another board. But use and rezoning are 2 separate issues. And I just want the board to keep that in mind.
Thank you, Greg.
Thank you.
Again, I have a question. I'd like to know, Mr. McCoy, is there a precedent as far as I'll say, a small piece of property being zoned differently than the majority property?
That's an excellent question. The size of this parcel, as Morgan stated earlier, is approximately 2.3 acres. Due to the size, you have some restrictions. However, by taking this one piece and rezoning it, you have to look at the overall impact of the neighborhood, how it's going to impact the neighborhood. The halfway house, as I stated earlier, that's a separate issue. The rezoning of the property is the issue. And if you rezone that property by it sitting in the middle of a residential district, that area was not designed to accommodate the needs of a commercial business. As I stated earlier, a halfway house is allowed in 4 zoning districts. Your C1, which is your central business district, your C2, which is your commercial waterfront, your C3, which is your commercial district. Normally you see that along your corridors, as is noted on this map, Noose Boulevard, and your C5, which is your office and institutional district. So there are options, just that rezoning this one piece, you have to look at the overall impact, not just on the adjacent property owners, but also the uses that are allowed in that zoning district. You're welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Greg. Do we have any other questions for the applicant before I move on to the next phase of public comment?
I got one to us.
Well, let's hold on to that, Hiram, if you would. Sorry, I'm gonna open it up for those speaking against the application. I don't think we have anybody here to speak to that. And seeing none, I will close the public comment, and now I'll open it up to additional board discussion, and you may go.
My question is, I'm to understand that the backyard of this place is already affected by C5?
It's adjacent to C5, according to the zoning.
The backyard?
Yeah.
Okay, I just want to make sure that.
Okay, any other board comment?
I'm concerned about putting so many people in a 1,000-square-foot house that hasn't been updated in 50-some years. And I checked on my sister houses. The other sister houses, there's one in Nashville, North Carolina, and Rocky Mount. But those houses are set up for assault cases for women and their children, both of them.
I have one more comment. If by chance this is approved, can it be approved conditionally based on the?
I don't think we can put a condition on use.
No, I'm saying, if she doesn't bring the house up to date, it wouldn't even qualify for really a residential. If it had been vacant for 6 months, it wouldn't even qualify to be a regular habitation for regular folks. Once it had the house been vacant for 6 months, that's the question I want to ask.
No, sir, you cannot place a condition like that on rezoning. Like, Mr.
No, that's
Moore-
the question I'm asking. Had the house been vacant for 6 months?
I'm not sure how long the home has been vacant. I can get Mr. and Mrs. Simmons to answer that. But regarding the conditions, no, we cannot do that. How long has the home been vacant for? About 6 months? Okay.
About 6 months.
Okay. Any other board discussion?
I just think that we need to, again, planning and zoning board.
Right.
We're talking about planning here, not
Exactly.
use or anything else.
It's a difficult discussion because we want to start talking about use, but that's not what we're here to talk about tonight and what we're here to act on. What we're here to act on is simple zoning of the property from residential to C5. And So once we've done that, that opens up the potential uses to anything that is allowable or permissible by right within the, the zoning chart.
I agree. I think that it's interesting that the application then mentions what it's going to be used for. And as I said, well, as I feel, I should say, I wouldn't want to have next to my property the option of building something that I don't want there.
Right.
And I understand this is something that's needed, but I'm not sure it's needed next to, in a residential property.
Okay, any
I'd like
other?
to say something.
Yes, Mr.
But
McCray.
if we have some complaint about it not being in a residential area, why aren't some of the other people down here?
That's a good
speaking
question.
something about it? There's no one here but the one that's applying for it. So that's what we need to take in
It
consideration.
may be because
they had
they
some
don't
complaint
realize
about it.
what we realize, that we're just rezoning this,
Well, that's what
as
we need
opposed to
look
just
at.
letting them do that.
That's right, look at the rezoning for them, because the other one had a chance to be in, or they had a notice to see about it with the sign up that she said, and it'll be in the paper later for the that. So let's go through the first stage now of what we need to do for the zoning of it, for
Okay.
if they're interested in doing something to help someone.
All right, so if there's, we can certainly have some more discussion, but I'd be happy to entertain a motion at this time as well.
That would be,
You got one, Mr. Newkirk? Would you like to do a motion?
I'd like to, my motion would be that we don't rezone it. That we keep it the way it is, that would be my motion.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any more discussion before we go to vote? Okay, let's have a roll call vote, and Morgan has asked that we raise our hands when we vote tonight, so she can keep track of who's voting.
And be sure that this is
So what are we
to deny the,
Right.
We're
the
voting,
vote is to deny the request to
To
rezone.
rezone, that's correct.
And that,
That's what we're voting for now. We have a motion and second to deny the application to rezone. So we're going to vote on that now.
It's a yes or no, I presume.
Yes, it's for denial.
Yes, it's for denial, that's correct.
We don't necessarily have to do an individual roll call vote, but when you say all in favor, say aye. If everyone could raise their hand so I can see everyone back there.
I think we ought to have a roll call on this one.
All right,
I think so too.
I think so too.
okay. Motion on the floor, just to repeat, motion made by Mr. Lizzo is to deny, which was seconded by
Mr. Evans.
Mr. Evans. Mr. Kip Paragoy,
Yes,
to deny.
yes.
Mr. Willie Newkirk Senior,
I'm for it.
So that's a no,
That's a
correct?
no.
No.
Mr. Jimmy Dillahunt,
I'm for it. No,
no, not to rezone it.
no, I'm for the rezoning.
Yes,
I'm
sir.
for rezoning it.
Got
Right,
it.
so they're both no's for this particular
Got it.
vote.
Ms. Carol Williams,
No.
no, not to rezone it. Mr. Sonny Aluzo,
I vote yes, not to rezone it.
Mr. Raymond Layton,
Let's, before I vote, let's clarify Ms. Williams' vote. That was a no to this particular motion, correct?
Not to rezone.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so that's a yes for
That's a
this
yes.
vote. Okay,
Yes.
all right, just, I wanted to make sure.
It was
Yes.
getting confusing.
My vote is yes to this motion.
Mr. Heron Biddy,
No.
not to rezone it?
I
No
want to
against-
move forward with having it rezoned.
Okay,
Right.
yes, sir. And Mr. Byron Walston,
No, for the rezoning.
for the rezoning?
Yes.
And last is Dorothea White,
No.
not to rezone it?
No.
No for this motion.
No for this motion.
Kind of confusing, really.
It was
Yeah.
getting confusing.
I understand.
did you call my name?
Yes, it is.
Mr. Barry Evans, I did not
Ye-
call your name.
Yes, for rezone.
Okay. I have 6 and 4 in favor of not rezoning the property.
4 in favor of this motion, 4 yeses and
6 noes.
6 noes. Okay.
That's correct.
So we go forward with
passed.
rezoning.
Yes, we voted to rezone.
Not to rezone.
Yep, that's, well, we've just acted on that motion, so now we can entertain another motion if there is one from our board to, we've had a negative, motion and second, so now we can have a positive that is in favor of zoning, rezoning the piece of the parcel to C5.
That's what it's for now, being rezoned to C5.
Right. Would you like,
Someone has to make the motion for it.
correct, we need a motion if we're going
I'll
to.
make the motion to rezone it as C5.
Okay, so we have a
I'll
motion,
second that.
we have a second. All right,
Okay.
so,
Sorry, making notes.
well, so our motion didn't pass,
Is a yes.
this last time around, and so that, what that means is that gives us, the board, an opportunity to have another motion, and we can vote for.
I thought before, had passed before.
Nope, all we did was, vote down the motion to deny the request. So now we need another motion, which we have from Mr. Beatty, to recommend approval
Okay.
of the rezoning request. We have a second from Mr. Newkirk. So now this is an affirmative, motion, and so we'll go through the same roll call for that. Is that my, on the correct terms there? Morgan, keep me straight.
Trying. Mr. Lo-
Before, are you gonna say, give some clarification before?
Basically, you going to give a recommendation to the Board of Aldermen
Yes.
for a rezoning, to rezone the property or to not to rezone the property. To rezone it to C5 or keep it at R10. That's it. So you, and that's it, you're gonna give a recommendation to the Board of Aldermen. So
Okay.
we need just to count those in favor of rezoning it, those that are not in favor of rezoning it.
Correct, and so that's what we have before us now.
Right.
So a yes vote now means you're in favor of rezoning the property.
Yes.
A no vote means you're not in favor of rezoning the property.
Right.
It's a flip from what we just did. It's a little confusing, but I think, we can work our way through it.
My question is clarifying the depth of C5. C5, does that mean that if I wanted to have a strip club there, could it happen?
No.
That's
Not-
what I
not
was
in
saying, that was
C5.
not.
Well, strip clubs are not allowed within 2,000 feet of any residential district, so,
Bars
but-
and all that kind of.
that's correct. The bar is not allowed, but you can have a funeral home. Just keep in mind that is open up to all the uses in the C5 zoning district.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to recommend approval of the rezoning application.
And
Any
the
further?
rezoning application for C5 would be what they're gonna put.
That's
on
correct. This is,
in their
this is,
flood.
would be to approve what they're after, recommend
Okay.
approval of what has been asked by the applicant.
All right.
Okay, so a yes is for the applicant, a no is not for the applicant this time around. Okay, all right, so I think we're square.
We're ready, Morgan.
Morgan, if you'd like to call roll for us again, roll call for us again.
Okay, just to reiterate the third time, this is to give a recommendation of approval to the Board of Aldermen. Okay, make sure we're clear. All right, Mr. Kip Paragoy,
No.
Mr. Barry Evans,
No.
Mr. Willie Newkirk Sr.,
Yes.
Mr. Jimmy Dillahunt,
Yes.
Ms. Carol Williams,
No.
Mr. Sonny Aluzo,
No,
Mr. Raymond Layton,
No,
Mr. Heron Beatty,
Yes.
Mr. Byron Walston,
Yes.
and Ms. Dorothea White.
Yes.
That was a yes?
Yes.
Well, that's tied.
did we get Mr. Newkirk?
Yes.
did get
that
Mr.
Okay,
means-
okay.
That's tied. Well, we can send out that recommendation
Yeah,
that it was an
let's-
even tie, and
We'll send that to the Board of
I
Aldermen.
always
and-
send them the minutes
Yes.
accordingly.
Okay,
All right.
thank you.
Get down the middle.
All right. Thank you.
let's find ourselves here.
Yeah.
Our next item of new business is consideration of a request by the city of New Bern to amend the city land use ordinance, Articles 9. This is permits and final plat approval, deletion of the 4/5 voting requirement. And this is per our general statutes requirement, North Carolina general statutes. And then also Article 11, which is supplemental use regulations, 15-170 telecommunications towers. Morgan, if you would like to give us a
All right, let's switch
presentation on that?
gears. So the first one regarding the 4/5 voting requirement, this is simply a housekeeping measure. The general statutes changed over the past year, 2 years regarding the 4/5 requirement. Now it is a simple majority, so we're just catching up. The other one is also a housekeeping measure. Telecommunication ordinances, we are just trying to beef up our review process, also add a few more definitions because as technology changes, our ordinance needs to stay updated as well to be in touch with the times. Both of these are very simple housekeeping measures. City legal staff has reviewed them, given their blessing, and I have nothing further.
Okay. Does the board have any questions for staff?
Sure. This is basically staff approval unless there's a special use permit that comes into play, correct?
I do believe, let me check with Mr. McCoy on this, but I believe that all telecommunications towers require special use permits. Is that correct, Mr. McCoy?
Basically, it would be dependent on the height, but just to go back to that section 15-54, as you know, we gave you several edits, and we just wanted to update that section. Now, back to the communications.
What I read was that most of the applications for a tower will be handled and approved by staff.
Yes, based on the height.
Right.
Anything under 60, and I believe once it gets to, I forgot the actual number, but staff will review all applications for height, and then we will send it to the appropriate board.
To the Board of Adjustments for a special use permit.
That's correct.
Okay. And under that heading of the special use permit process, it says, any wireless facility or wireless support structure not meeting the requirements of subsection C1 or C3 above. You gotta go back 5 pages in this to find that. Those things, they're not above, they're 5 pages preceding this, which I would think would be a little bit tough to find.
Right.
If there's some way to
Amend the language?
amend the language to reference where somebody could go if they're reading this.
Mr. Perry, what page was that again, please?
That's page 11 is the problem.
Well, that's page 11 of what,
And the
our
solution-
packet.
Yeah, and the solution's back on page. It's back on page 6.
I think what Ms. Perry was asking is that we had a reference there rather than above, is that?
Yeah. And I mean, it's hard to find, there's lots of Cs and 1s and subsections As and Bs in this thing. And I think it just needs to be a little clearer as to what that reference point is.
Okay.
That's all.
All right. And we'll get with the city attorney, and we'll make those necessary changes. I believe Morgan is taking some notes, so your input is greatly appreciated.
Any other questions or comments for staff on these?
Make a motion to approve the amendments.
Second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
That was easy.
Okay, Morgan, I think we've got another item on here of an update on board appointments and reappointments.
Yes.
Can you give us an update on that?
I appreciate some of you hanging on for extra time while we went through this staff transition. Thank you for putting in your extra time. We really appreciate it.
Checks in the mail.
Letters have been sent out to the respective aldermen to make the necessary reappointments and new appointments, because some of you I will unfortunately be losing for a while, so you have to rotate off. So hopefully we'll have some new faces next time, and I will keep you all abreast of that. And I don't have anything.
I've been informed that I will not be reappointed. So I've been informed by Mr. White.
Okay, okay,
This will be my last meeting.
okay. And I believe,
Enjoyed it.
well, thank you very much for serving, and I believe it's Mr. Paraguay's last meeting, since we've held on to him for 6 years. And I believe this is Ms. Dorothea White's last meeting as well.
Looking forward.
And the county will be making an appointment, and we'll have 2 from the alderman. And I have nothing further this evening.
Okay. I'm not aware of any old business we need to discuss, so at this time, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
We have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Yes.